Well, hello there, fellow D&D fans, and happy May. This is Sage of Sorcery, the Dungeon Master for Holy Rollers, the new cleric-centered D&D live stream show on Twitch that is on Thursdays at 8:30 Mountain Standard Time. I am here with Benjamin Coombs, the official artist for Holy Rollers D&D, and also a member of the cast. How are you doing after tonight's battle session, Benjamin?
Oh, it's not so bad, you know? FYI, it's Coombs.
Coombs, excuse me, not Combs. Well,
Yes.
There we go. Coombs. Well, I don't think I've ever had an occasion to use your last name. So live and learn. Looks like I'm getting to know Ben too, which is also valuable. So Ben, I don't know. Is this your first experience playing Dungeons and Dragons?
You know what? It actually is. I am a very, very much a noob.
Yeah, and that's okay. We are not only are all noobs welcome in D&D, but we are more than happy to have you as our noob, right? So if we're going to have a noob, you're a good one to have. So
Yay.
I'm a little shocked that this is the first time you've played D&D, considering your other geeky predilections. So what other geeky fandoms do you belong to, or where did your passion with fantasy or sci-fi or anything like that begin?
Well, the very first movie I ever saw in the theaters was Return of the Jedi in a drive-in theater. I was 2 years old, and that kind of kick-started my whole just everything sci-fi, fantasy, nerdliness. Like it was just so captivating, and it made such an impression on me that I just had to find more of it, even create some of it if I had to.
Gotcha. And when you say you mean create some of it, what did you create? Or how did you start creating?
So it wasn't long after that my parents would get very upset at me for like drawing in books and drawing on the walls. It had captivated me so much that I just started drawing everywhere. And it wasn't long before, and a few times with my parents really getting after me, that they finally just gave me a notebook and said, why don't you draw in here? And only in here.
Gotcha. Did that work, or were you still Picasso on the walls?
Oh, no, I stopped drawing on the walls there. The point was made.
Good. Do you draw on the walls now, or do you still?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, good. I'm glad. Unless of course that's your medium, in which case I support you. So you've been a fantasy fan for probably a long time. Then fantasy, sci-fi, probably both genres, I would imagine.
Oh yes, yeah. There's quite a bit of bleed over that. And I know I love Star Trek, I love Star Wars, I love real sci-fi, and I love like your traditional fantasy, like your Lord of the Rings, the Wizards and Dragons, all those things. Like it's all really cool and really interesting to me. Like,
well, awesome.
There's a lot of bleed over with that I really enjoy.
So for those of you who don't know, who will be watching this, Ben is actually the artist that we reached out to design our logo. Ben designed our logo. He's done all of the illustrations of our characters. So my question, because I started to get a sense that you were interested in playing kind of from the beginning, what is it that made you want to join us playing D&D and playing on a live stream show?
Well, playing on a live stream show was never my that was never my intent to be like, ooh, hey, look at me, let's do this. But I've always been interested in playing from a fairly early age. I never really I've always heard stories of people that would play Dungeons and Dragons from my childhood, but I was never really familiar with it until I was probably in high school. So in the late 90s, really late 90s, it was when I probably first started getting wind of this game that only the uber nerds would ever play.
That's awesome. And you were like, but was it alluring to you, even though it was uber nerds? Were you
Well,
like, huh? You're
I
like,
started hearing about it and hearing just the little jargon that would go along with it. And so while I would on the surface be like, yeah, I'm not, no, that's not what I'm doing. Deep down, it was like, I need to learn more.
yeah,
Please, I need to
but I
learn more.
need to know more. Yeah.
So I
So,
started doing a lot of research on my own into
mm,
the game and figuring some more things out about it. Um, I after let's see, so probably in like '02, '03,
mhm.
I started hanging out with a lot more friends. Like my first couple years of college, you're kind of surrounded by a bunch of, I don't know, a whole mixed bag of people like you do normally in college. And I started hearing more and more about the game and learning more and more about it.
Mm.
Um, it was just one of those things where it's like I didn't quite know enough. I was always apprehensive to be like, hey, do you mind if I sit in on a session and see how this really goes? And I was trying to just glean as much as I could from just observation, from hopping in on conversations. I started to learn a little bit about how the game was played without actually playing it. And I've been doing that progressively for the next probably decade or so after that.
Mm. So you flirted with D&D at the borders of it. You were like at the edge of the kingdom, but now you're full on in the plunge. So question, are you hooked?
I really, really like this a lot.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it is like, so my next question is, what good do you think comes from D&D? I mean, obviously it's a fun game for those of us who are more of a creative bent, right? But
Sure.
what good do you see coming from our game or from any game?
I think the real benefit is what it comes from. For me, I see it as it's like it's the ultimate sandbox game. It's almost it's as close to like an allegory of of real life without actually like real world consequences.
Mm,
Um, you can because you can role play and you can role play someone that's similar to yourself. You can role play someone that is completely different. You can change things about yourself in a game setting, and you can learn about how I find it very interesting that you can suddenly empathize with different kinds of people and how you're able to draw parallels and see how other people in the real world could actually function. It gives you a new set of eyes, a new
mm,
viewpoint to see the world and to see the people around you
yeah.
just from interacting with and trying to work with other people that are very different from yourself. It builds, I think it builds empathy.
That's a really good point. In addition to which kind of leads into the next question. So we are a largely religious and conservative group for the most part amongst us. Why do you think it's important for conservative religious people to also have a voice in the D&D community? Because as you well know, the vast majority of the D&D community is very progressive, and many of them, not too into faith. Why do you think it's important for us to be out there?
For the same reasons why I think it's important that everybody have an equal voice,
Mm,
that everyone gets representation. I mean, I think I think the very best stories. We're all storytellers at heart here, so I
mm,
feel like the very best stories are the ones that are universal, the ones that resonate. And I truly believe that at the core of every single good story, of all the very best stories, if you boil everything down to its absolute core, the message is that we are all the same.
mm,
And so if you're able to, so while we're a really quiet voice, we have a really small audience in the D&D community.
yeah.
Uh, I feel like it's an important one because there's a lot of just anti-religion, of a bunch of atheists, agnostics, just everyone along the spectrum,
Yeah.
and so few religious people. And especially in a world where I feel like religion in general is frowned upon,
Yeah.
I think it's important to realize that even though we are people of faith, that we are no better than everyone else in the D&D community. We are just as susceptible to anger and pride and foolishness,
Yeah.
as well as nobility and goodness and virtue. Like we are no better than anybody else, and I think it's important to put out there that we don't pretend to be better than everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good too, and I think that's such an important point. That kind of speaks to the idea that D&D is for everybody, and not only it is for everybody, but the wider our audience gets, the more we're going to learn from each other. And by audience, I mean the D&D audience, not just Holy Rollers audience. But I feel like that's important. I feel like we break down stereotypes when we widen our diversity. And diversity is not just skin color. Diversity is also geographical location, belief systems, and all kinds of different perspectives. So I think that's important. So what have you been most excited about as we've started doing this? I mean, and especially moving forward now, what are you most excited about?
With this particular group that we're doing?
Sure.
Well, I'm really excited to joining with the idea of being in a live stream was not my initial thought process or drive for it. But now that I know that we're slowly growing, we're slowly building, our audience is slowly getting larger, I feel really excited and invigorated in the idea that we are getting noticed, that we are being seen. And not for the sake of, entertainment is what drives people to you, and it's what keeps people coming to you. But entertainment with a message that we are no better than anybody else, that we love this game and know how to play it just as well as anyone else out there. That I think that's cool. I like the prospect that we can offer another perspective, that maybe those angry people out there can look at religion as it's not a bad thing. Like we're
not jerks, I promise. Right?
Really.
I mean, we have jerky moments like everybody does, but I mean, I promise that we don't hate everyone. Like so that's good.
And we're trying so hard to just not force feed our Christianity upon everybody either.
Yeah. Well, and I think it is exciting too to be able to share that. With everybody, you're an artist, I'm a writer, and every artist and creative person wants their art to go out, So I'm honored that people take an interest in us, that they'll watch us, that they'll tune in every week. I think it's a great honor, especially moving forward from here. So what's been your favorite D&D moment so far, or the moment that your favorite Morrowkahn moment, or the thing that you've done, or what's been your favorite moment in the campaign so far?
Oh gosh, that's really hard to say. Because I've only been doing this for about a dozen or so weeks now.
Yeah.
Like I am really new to this compared to so many people that have been doing this for literally decades. So far my favorite part is, oh gosh, that's a hard one to pinpoint. My favorite part is probably the, let's see.
Or your most memorable? What's been most memorable? Yeah. What most memorable thing?
My most memorable thing is probably when I really, really got after Anduriel.
when you called him an anemic little speck?
Yes. That if he keeps mocking my goddess and slandering, and yeah, it's that I would swat him like a mosquito.
Yeah.
That was very cool. I
enjoyed that. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that. And I think it speaks to the kind of campaign it should be too. Well, that is all the time that we will take for the first interview here So if you are watching this, please keep tuning in. We have 2 more episodes before the end of the season where Ben will feature as Morrowkahn, the Dragonborn cleric monk. He's our clunk, and we are very grateful to have him. So for those of you who are watching, this is Ben, and he is awesome to watch, and we will see you around. Adios.
Thanks, guys.